What's good, good people? We are back for yet another episode of the Family Bloodline podcast on the Wednesday nights. We get into these streets and we talk about the political, economical, social bearings of the world, primarily globally. Primarily home, CONUS, and then we push abroad what might be affecting things globally. As before we begin, here's a new piece of things that I'm going to end up doing is reading the disclaimer to ensure that everyone understands our association to various different things and how we have to make sure we represent ourselves and maintain our quote unquote professionalism. So our disclaimer is the views expressed are those held by the author and do not represent any other organization, company, corporation, or entity. Now that we've gotten that out of the way, gentlemen, how are we doing this evening?
I'm doing good, man. Back with the fellas. Talk about the hot topics. Hey, there's nowhere else I'd rather be than tonight, right here with y'all, man. I'm good.
So enough. Rich, what you got?
Not much.
I thought tonight we would get 4 syllables out of Rich, and then
Oh, you gonna get some syllables.
he got me again.
You're gonna get quite a few.
Not much.
Not much. He did it. I'm trying to figure out why I'm not showing live on Facebook just yet. Or do y'all have us on Facebook?
No. You're live on Facebook. I got you up.
Yeah. Okay. Well, let me check my stream and try and figure out what's going on. But
did you get permission from Zuck?
Shit. That's another story for another time. But yeah, we here, we good, we going. All right. So since we've already gotten past the pleasantries, what's going on, Zoe? Thanks for joining. Thanks for hopping in. Everybody in these TikTok streets that are watching right now. What's going on, Chris? You can absolutely hop on to the platform of the Family Bloodline on YouTube, Facebook, or even Instagram. We are live on all those platforms to talk about whatever it is you want to actually talk about or weigh in on the topics tonight. Tonight we will be talking about the address, the State of the Union address. We'll talk about tariffs, and we'll talk about Ukraine to set things off a little bit. And just to let people know where we stand. As a reminder, the views expressed herein are held by the author alone, and do not have any bearing and do not represent any organization, company, corporation, or any other entity, just to make sure we understand that. So with that being said, let's go ahead and get ready to into it. First thing that we're going to start talking about tonight, we're going to talk about that State of the Union address. I don't know where Deuce jumped off to, but come on back when you get a second, my man. Come on back. Probably got to call it something. So he'll join us again whenever he's able to. So Rich, I'm sure you watched the State of the Union address last night. What is your take on it?
Well, the president spoke, and as a veteran of the United States Air Force, I served my time.
Indeed.
I speak as a military veteran, as an American citizen. I respect the opinions of others. I realize that some people won't stand for the flag. I respect that. When I served the country, our enemy was Russia. Our enemy was communism. Our enemy was anyone that invaded somebody's country without any valid reason. So that means I stand with Ukraine.
Okay.
I stand with Israel. Did I say that Ukraine was perfect? I did not. Did I say Israel was perfect? I did not. Was the speech last night perfect? It was not. However, he's the president. I put something on Facebook, and this is what I wrote. The Democrats should have stood for this child, the 13-year-old from Texas. along with the other honorees that President Trump addressed throughout his speech. That's just respect. I hope that everyone will have the courage. Let me say that for you again. I hope that everyone will have the courage to point out things when the Republicans are wrong. Last night, there were some things that the Democrats were wrong. I don't remember Republicans calling for responsibility when former President Obama was called a liar in his State of the Union speech by Congressman Wilson in 2009, or Congresswoman Marjorie Taylor Greene when she screamed liar at President Joe Biden over Social Security in 2023. So when we only call foul on the political party not affiliated with your own political party, it rings hollow and empty.
Is that on?
With that being said, when they didn't stand for all the honorees that President Trump was calling out last night, Laken Riley, who was unfortunately murdered, her mother and sister, I believe, were there, and some other people. When the Democrats refused to even acknowledge that, why did you even go? Why did you even go? If you despise this person who was elected president on his second term, so it's not a fluke, he's not a fluke. If you couldn't give respect to those in need, to those who lost their loved ones, why did you even attend last night?
So that's you saying, just to sum up what you're saying, I want to make sure that everybody's understanding you correctly. So you're saying that at a moment during that time, there should have been a movement of bipartisanship to support the people that POTUS called out.
I don't call it bipartisanship. I just call that respect.
Okay. All right.
Because if you had lost your child and you were there, you decided to go because the president's honoring you because you lost your child because an illegal immigrant killed your child, I'm going to stand up and give you that respect because you lost your child. No different in the African-American community when so many young Black men have been killed with their interaction with police or other situations in life.
All right. Deuce, what you got?
I got kicked out for a second. Now I'm back. Almost got dodged for a minute.
Oh,
no. Yeah, I came in on the tail end of what Rich was saying. And so you're talking about there wasn't a united respect given to the guests that Trump called up. Is that what you're saying? Is that what I caught?
Yeah.
What I'm saying is when they let me tell you how President Trump really doubled down on them.
Okay.
Laken Riley, it appears to be a European American, a Caucasian.
Okay.
The young Black man, the 13-year-old, he's African American. I forgot his name. He is African American. So when people say, "Oh, President Trump's a racist," but yet he's acknowledging this 13-year-old African American who survived brain cancer. So if you say, "Well," I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, go ahead. Finish your thought. You on the flow. No, finish the flow.
No, I'll stop there. Go ahead.
So I hear what you're saying, right? But here's my thing. I like what the people are putting up in the chat in the bottom. The thing to me was the intention, right? I feel like it reminds me of Sarah Bartman from back in the day. A lot of people don't know who she is, but she was a very shapely, beautiful woman from Africa that Europeans took and put her on show like it was Barnum and Bailey Circus. So for me, I think Trump, who's the ultimate showman, ultimate entertainer, picked this moment to use those people as pawns. As unfortunate as a situation may be, my heart goes out to them. I mean, no disrespect to them. But you have to wonder why then. Because at the same time, I think maybe he was president-elect. He invited the guy, who was the guy?
Daniel Penny. He invited Daniel Penny. He invited Kyle Rittenhouse. And as of today, there are pushes and movements to excuse Chauvin.
Right. So to me, uh, there is no good reason to excuse or invite those people. Being objective, no good reason whatsoever. So he's the ultimate showman in the fact that he picks and chooses people to use as pawns when he needs them to support
Mm,
his purpose. Right. So what he does need is not a unified Congress, but he needs a handful of Democrats just to question and sway his way. So it's a political game to me. And I like what somebody said. That's not the stage to bring somebody up to use
yeah,
him as a pawn.
that's my man Javi. He's one of my fellow logisticians, Javi
Mm,
Well,
Ruiz.
both the Democrats and the Republicans, when you
mhm.
bring people up to acknowledge what they've gone through because they support your cause or they support something that you believe in, that's been going on for years. So that's just equal.
Okay,
That's just equal. But what you're saying about them being used, the honorees are being used as pawns, and what Maya was saying about what was the president's intentions,
I mean, we don't know.
that's accurate.
We
I believe there's truth to that.
yeah,
There's some
we have
truth
to
to it.
assume.
They may
Yeah.
not have been 100% pawns,
Mm,
but at least 60%.
yeah. And so what I will say is, um, understanding our experience in America, we absolutely understand tokenization, and we can't remove that from the lens of our political strata because that happens to us way too frequently. An example of that directly is Byron Donaldson,
Mm.
Tim Scott.
mm.
So they get platformed for a specific reason and at a specific time. And now let me make sure I put this out there also, because I do not want anybody to think that I align myself or I have an allegiance to either party, right? That the Democrats do the exact same thing every 4 years. We finally become important to them. Our cause has become important to them, right? But it's a tokenization of the actual real life struggles of people. And for a moment, we get gaslit and to have that hope that we're seen again.
Mhm.
And there's a movement of assimilation and acceptance to our plight. And then after the spotlight is gone, so is the actual reality, or so is the carnival, as it were, and the show goes on without mentioning us again. It's a simple tokenization. Do I agree with you, Richard? Absolutely, I agree that would have been a perfect time, even though it wasn't the correct setting. So I can agree with that as well, Javi. It might not have been the correct setting, and I can agree with you on that, Deuce, to have that platforming, but in all things being considered, if there was a time for unification to be shown, felt, and for the Democrats to have some type of a leverage or footing during the entire night, those were the times to actually do that, to get that in, to show some form, even if it wasn't genuine, but to show some form or some semblance of humanism, to actually look at the topic, the issue, and the persons that they're talking about and make them real as well. The Democrats have been losing that edge here lately.
So I want to say 2 points in that real quick. One, I don't think this is fucking fair. Glass, you keep talking with no spaces like you're reading a fucking teleprompter. If you have one, share it with me and Richard. All right?
Have a
You
teleprompter.
got to damn tell it because you went
I
through that with no
don't.
no whatever. Give us the teleprompter. All right? I think that's some
I'm a
fucking
son of
bullshit.
preachers, man. I'm the product of ministers and preachers.
Now you're gonna say minister and preacher when I said fucking bullshit, and you bring gospel into this.
Get to the product.
This is this
Off
is
the
a perfect
glass.
setup.
Right
This is a
off the
perfect
glass.
right.
Hey,
He played me
right.
like this is a perfect setup into my next point. I said fuck bullshit, all this profanity. He comes with I'm a preacher with the minister with the gospel.
He's telling
The
the truth.
Democrats fell right into Trump's plan, right?
Yeah,
Which,
yeah.
as you say, he made them look bad because for years, the Republicans were the bad guys, right? At that moment in time, when they jeered and just showed that disrespect for those people, they played into his hand. And we all know right now, we don't, I'm not saying for certainty, perception is the Democrats don't have a plan at this moment. At least not what they advertise. So he's
Yeah,
making them look even weaker,
they ain't even
which
got
that's his
concept
strength.
plans. They ain't even got
Huh?
concepts of ideas.
I
They have,
I know what you did there.
yeah,
I
you
like what
see
you
that?
did there.
You
They don't
see
have
what I did?
concepts
Yeah.
of
Well,
concepts
They,
of a
they
plan.
don't.
listen,
They don't.
Let
You
me,
know,
let me, let me say this.
right on, Zoe.
Either you have it or you don't when it comes to speaking and being able to motivate and influence others.
Okay.
Now, you have a few in the Democratic side, but, Hakeem Jeffries,
Mm.
minority leader, he doesn't
Yeah.
inspire me at all.
Chuck Schumer,
Doesn't inspire me at all.
he puts me to
Those
sleep.
are strategy people. So when Donald Trump talks, he pushes your button. Either your run to protect him or your run to throw him into the water. But he pushes your button.
Yeah.
Mm.
That's what you have to do when you're a leader. You touch people's hearts, you inspire them, you don't ask them to do anything that you wouldn't do. Now, in his case, that part I just said doesn't apply to him.
Okay.
Does he is touching hearts? Is that the only place he touches people?
Yeah, he
What the
touches people's
people are
hearts.
asking.
So he does
He
it.
might. That's the only place he.
Asking for a friend.
I forgot the disclaimer. I'll stop.
So what I'm saying is, I know that both of y'all are serving active duty, and so I know that at the end of the day, regardless of how you feel, if President Trump says, "Hey, we got to go get somebody," you suit up. Well, you're already suited up, and you're gone off to the races.
Mhm.
And thank God we have veterans like that. Thank God.
Yeah, because I absolutely support the office of the President of the United States
Absolutely.
and my professional
And I
life.
still support the country. So, not to get off subject, he gave a speech last night. Was he perfect? No. Is our country perfect? Hell no. Because it started completely wrong.
Mm.
And so when I saw today, allegedly, China said, if you want to have a tariff war, let's go. You want to have any kind of war, let's go. I said, oh, that's how you feel, China?
Wait. That's your response to that?
When China put up a thing saying, if you want a tariff war, we'll go.
Yeah.
We'll have one with you. If you want to have any technological war or anything else, or any kind of war, we're ready. Let's go.
Don't play the music yet.
You want to go back to that? You want to stay there? We can stay there. I got no problem. We'll. No,
Yo,
hey,
I got
hey,
PTSD from this
it's
music.
pause and mute button on this. we can stay here for a second.
This ain't around. I ain't know this was around the horn.
Hey, the music was your idea, man.
I like it. Rich, the way you said it, China, we can play that game, right? Is to me, it seems as though you're mad at China for responding, right, to the threat that we made to them. Because in this scenario, China is Chris Rock, Will Smith.
Okay.
Well,
okay.
Before we leave his speech from last night, he wasn't perfect, but he wasn't wrong in everything he said either. That 350 million to Ukraine, that's a lie.
Yes, I was about to say, give me an example.
That's just one of his many lies. But here's the thing: when you run for office and you're a politician, if I run for office and I scored six runs, I say 12.
Sure.
I'll make you argue me down to 6. That's a sales technique.
It is a good it's something he's done a lot, but just you reminded me of something. Glass texted me either earlier or yesterday. Something that went under the radar is the fact that he peeled back. So government employees, federal workers, could not accept bribes, and gifts had to be under $1 amount. Gone, right? So now the Ukraine deal probably will be made, because we'll talk about that later, possible reasons that we think of. Ukraine deal will possibly be made for those minerals. All that money is not coming to the U.S. government. Some money will go towards individuals. Don't know who. It will go towards individuals. Also, he talked about the energy sector, right? So that I think he wants the development of a significant natural gas pipeline in Alaska. He wants to dismantle, peel back a lot of these environmental protections. Also, countries like South Korea and Japan are willing to invest in that. Why do we need, we're the number one economy in the world. As Rich will always say, we're the number one country in the world. Why would we need money from another country to invest in our country unless they're able to line some politician pockets to
Mm,
invest in that while they get a return?
Yep.
okay.
We never
That's
needed that before.
Yep.
The Keystone Pipeline, before it was shut down, I don't recall any other country having to invest in it. But now we need that.
yeah, and just
Hmm.
to make sure we there's facts in something that it's a fact checking moment.
Mhm.
The United States, our oil reserves, our oil movement, right?
Mhm.
Under the previous administration was the highest it's ever been. Globally,
Will you
with,
elaborate on what you mean by oil movement, just
yeah.
to be clear?
So when it comes down to America pumping oil,
Mhm.
exporting oil as part of our GDP,
Mhm.
it was the biggest it's ever been.
Mhm.
It was the biggest it's ever been. It has not. It was not something that was shut off to the rest of the world. The statement of 100 refineries being closed during that administration is false as well.
Mm.
That's not that. There's no truth in that whatsoever.
This is the guy that
So
referred to the past president as a stupid president, talking
that
to
yeah,
Zelensky.
and I wish the current POTUS would speak and maintain a movement of dignity for everyone who's passed through that office.
But doing it
I,
this way has worked for him. But you're right. I wish you would too. But
and
the way he's doing it works for him.
yeah, yeah, and
Nobody else.
I can't even argue with that, unfortunately, and I want to, but I can't.
I hope the
I can't.
VP's listening to that. I don't want him to pick up on that playbook and think that will work for him in his run for the presidency.
Well, since we've been speaking about different things as far as finances are concerned, let's push the narrative up a little bit and let's talk about the elephant in the room that started yesterday. Today is Wednesday. Yeah, today is Wednesday because we're live. Let's talk about the tariffs. The tariffs that have been increased on China and have been imposed on our neighbors, Canada and Mexico. And also, we can go ahead and touch on the address that Justin Trudeau gave when he spoke to the people, and then he spoke directly to POTUS. I'm not sure if you all seen that. Did I?
I saw the headline. I don't know the content.
Okay. All right. Well, we'll start with the tariffs. Go ahead. Let's jump in on tariffs.
Well, first, let's say what the tariff is. The
You know
tariff.
what?
Yeah.
That's a perfect. Thank you for saying
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
Go ahead. Go ahead and read it. You got it. You got it.
A tariff. This is the Republican Party who's against taxes. Let's keep that in mind now on the backdrop. A tariff is a tax on imported goods coming into America or exported goods going out of America. Tariffs are a type of trade barrier. Tariffs can be used in combination with quotas to limit the amount of goods that can be imported. Tariffs can be used to protect domestic industries from foreign competition, raise revenue for government.
Mm-hmm.
Tariffs can increase the cost of imported goods. Why do I keep harping on the fact that tariff is a tax? Because the Republicans are against taxes. Republicans, remember when you said, here, Richard, here's the federal budget, go on and read it and be ready for last Wednesday night. And I said, okay, here's their thing about the Republican Party. Free market. That's what they're all about. How the hell is a tariff promoting your free market philosophy? It's not, because you're a hypocrite.
That is valid. I didn't think about it that way. You swung from the fences on that.
I'm on their ass on this.
Yeah.
Hold on 1 second here, because I know I wrote this.
It was
here it is. I got it written down. And then I'll let y'all start talking.
Go ahead.
Here it is. Where is the free market philosophy of the religious / financial freedom from government interference. Where's it at, President Trump? Republican hypocrisy is showing its inner core strength that equals the Democrats' false narrative of helping those in need by saying, we are the party of the working class. They're both full of it. So when he does his tariffs and he claims he's a Republican, he claims he's for free market. No, he's for free market when it lines his pockets and the pockets of his friends. If you really believe in a free market, then you don't need no tariff to protect American industry from foreign industry. You don't need that.
Just as a side note, there are several countries in Africa that are giving France the blues.
Oh, they've been doing that.
Yeah. I mean, no, but they are ramping it up. And we'll come back to that at another time. Maybe that's another topic for next week or the week following. But it actually aligns on a global scale directly with tariffs. And not just with their minerals, but also Air France has been removed and cannot come back to those three countries. And that was a staple.
Do you know the name of those three, the coalition of those three countries? You know what it's called?
I don't know what the coalition is called.
I can't. It's Shahal. It's named after the region.
It's named after the region.
I tell you what. Those three countries who are doing that, those three presidents, you would have security around the clock, and you better not.
They do. One of the presidents, allegedly, France has already tried to assassinate at least 18 times. At least 18. That's what they've been able to count. So there's a continuous effort there. But that's going to also have global impact, especially with tariffs. When you begin to remove precious metals and minerals from global circulation, especially from westernized countries that put those minerals in play, you hurt the global economy. You destabilize it in a specific stance because now, go ahead.
Wait, one quick thing.
Yeah.
Those three African countries, I've never known any African country to control its natural mineral wealth except for Nigeria when it comes to its oil. So I don't know what
Well, that's yes and no, because technically speaking, the Middle East is Africa, right? I don't want that to be missed. And like I keep telling people, there's no such thing as the Middle East because there's no Middle South, Middle North, or the Middle West, right? There's no such thing. So those are African countries also, but you're correct. One of the movements that was also started by Ghana is they began to pull back their natural resource of cocoa, and they removed it from Swiss, and they began to charge them the market price for their actual cocoa to make their chocolate.
Hold on, is that so? Ghana is outside of the three African countries giving France help.
Yes, yeah. So there's a movement on the continent of Africa in general that's seeing a lot of the African countries push back on past colonialization and begin to right the wrongs that happened. And I'm saying that in respects to tariffs, again, because when you begin to draw back the minerals, right, that were flowing at one point from the continent of Africa, and they were seized by westernized cultures and countries, then you begin to destabilize global economy because they don't have the same control over the coffers that they were filling. They're not making the same profit that they were at one point. And so now France is desperately trying to get the $500 billion that it was extracting out of one African country to put back into its central bank and then make profit from selling the minerals as well. Now we go ahead. Mm-hmm.
This goes right up to your alley about Elon Musk.
It does.
Go ahead.
It absolutely does. And so now we're getting hit. One of the things that I continue to find odd is that we're pushing Ukraine for mineral rights while Africa is beginning to restrict westernized countries for their minerals simply so they have an equal footing on the economical world stage.
I want to put something else in there. Yeah. This is me playing with the puzzle pieces, right? Maybe conspiracy theory, but the federal government is being reshaped. This is the friendliest word I can say.
Gotcha.
one of the agencies, one of the offices that was completely dismantled was the office for, well, Richard would know, unions, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
that's the power that's gone.
Yeah.
Okay, we got tariffs. Richard just gave an excellent definition of what that is. It's a tax, right? It's a barrier to reduce the quota, the amount of stuff that's coming in from outside countries. The idea of being pushed is that it's going to drive up American production. In some industries it will, and some it won't. For those industries that is bringing that do go up, they need workers. We all talked about American workers are not going to work for less than X amount of dollars.
Right.
We also know that there's power, like James talked about, those three African countries joining together to have a lot of voice. So there's power in unity. The American workers' unity was unions.
Mm.
However, the first thing that was dismantled in the federal government was the office, the liaison office that dealt with unions. Also, when the federal workers are getting laid off in masses and doles or whatever, the federal workers unions went to court, took a big L, like Drake.
Wait a minute. Hold
So-
on. Wait, hold on.
Why you throw that in there? Why
It's
you
the Super Bowl. The Super Bowl,
Hold
right?
on. Because I want people to understand this. If I'm pretty certain on this, the federal unions, they don't fall under the National Labor Relations Board.
No, that's not the point I was going with. But
Oh,
good
okay,
good
okay.
point.
Okay.
But I do want to say those unions they put the gloves on, put up a fight, and took an L like Tyson against Jake Paul, right? So
Okay.
if they lost,
You gonna keep
And
you
then-
ain't gonna keep doing people like this tonight. I'm catching all these. Oh, you throwing out strays, bro.
I'm paying that no mind.
if they took an L and the liaison office for the other unions is dismantled and
Yeah.
thus they're disempowered, then and the only thing that's preventing American companies, one of the things preventing American companies from making money here is the price of American workers. What if wages start to retreat? Who will fight to defend that?
There are no
Ah.
there are no more measures
Oh.
in place at that point.
Yeah, because that National Labor Relations Act for the National Labor Relations Board,
Yeah.
Mhm.
that's for private sector unions, not public sector unions,
Yeah.
private sector.
That's
So
what, private is what I'm talking about.
that's exactly right.
Yeah.
That's a great catch.
Mhm.
That's a
Yeah.
great catch because I thought about that too a couple weeks ago when I saw that.
Yeah.
And so the question that I have for the panel, starting with you, Rich, is what are the intentions behind the actual tariffs? What are the
Well, I'm
intentions
glad-
behind the
I'm
tariffs?
glad you brought that up because the Republicans say it's about making America first. The Democrats say it's going to drive prices up, and he's reneging on his campaign promise to bring the cost of goods down.
Mhm.
But it's so funny that Deuce said this. It says it may do this, it may do that. No one knows quite for sure how the tariff war will go. Why? Because it's based off of pseudoscience. It's based off of social
But I
damn
can't get past
science.
the episode
Hold
without
on.
him attacking economics.
Hold on. Here we go. Here we go. Economics.
Okay.
The study
let's
of
do
how
it.
Deuce,
Let's do it.
Wanda, James, and anyone else on how they create, consume, and distribute. Now, I don't know about y'all two, but I can guess on how Wanda's going to do it. See, economics ain't no real science. It's the study. Here it is. It's a social science because they use math, they use numbers, but anybody can use numbers. So let me explain this to you. I'm trying to talk to Shamiqua. Shamiqua says, so how much money you got? Man, I got about $50 a week. James comes along and says, I got $155. She says, I'll take him. But that was Shamiqua. Kadisha say, well, you know, Richard, I like how you carry yourself. So I know you ain't got no money, but you know, I'm about the love, so I'm gonna get with you. That's economics. It's not a real science. And that's why you have this famous man called John Maynard Keynes. He said you need government intervention.
Yeah.
But a free market says we don't need no government intervention. What is a free market? Ask the Confederacy of the South. That's a damn free market. And Lincoln said, we got to cut all that out.
Both of y'all throwing straights tonight. Wanda got hit in the crossfire too for no
I know,
reason.
right? Ain't even here to defend herself. Okay. My boy, stay hitting economics, man. The basic point of economics, the study of how people interact with money. Would you agree with that? Okay.
Yeah.
So the math is involved in the financial aspect of that, where the study of people, which is very complex, and their reaction to cost, those two pieces together, economics, right? When you think about the study of why people like expensive things, because we think it's made of quality, when that may not always be true. However, if it's high price, fancy design, we think that Tesla, for instance, was high price, right? And people put it in a premium level of car. But when you look at the build quality of that Tesla, it looked like it came from Temu, right? So that doesn't mean that it's a good product, but because he priced it at that point, people think that it's a good product, right? The same thing with made in America. It's more expensive, or made in Italy. It's more expensive, so we think it means quality. That may not necessarily be true, but that's the psychology of the American consumer that economics tries to study, right? So, damn, what was the question, James? Richard got me thrown.
Wait a minute.
I was just asking what the intentions were.
Hold on, because he says about how they interact with money. Let me tell you this. Now, they teach you this in college. Adam Smith, European.
Yes.
Is the father of economics for his theories on economics, including, listen to this, the invisible hand.
Yeah, I know it. Yeah. I know.
Self-interest and the superiority. That it's gotta be a European saying this. I'm gonna say it again. He's known for being a father of economics, including the theories on economics, including the invisible hand, self-interest. That's got to be European. Superiority of capitalism. That is the South. That is the Confederacy. That's the American way. That's American capitalism. And the wealth of nations. Go out and trade with other nations to get what you need. And the things you do good, you trade that to them. But here's the superiority complex of economics, the European mindset that resources are scarce. But in Africa and in Asia, resources are not scarce. That's why the Europeans came to those continents and grabbed, they'd buy two things and grab four more.
That's interesting.
I'm going to hold my words like Nancy did last night, James. I'm going to let you go.
Well, I was just going to make a quick point to say, I was listening to a TED Talk. Thank you, Maya, for sending that to me. But there was a young lady who was from, I can't remember what country from Africa she was in, but she made a point that I'd really never thought about. And that point was, she said, I am from the richest continent in the world. She's from Africa.
Yes.
And she's 100% correct. Yes. Africa is the richest continent in the world. Minerals, metals, people, intelligence, everything.
Wait.
Go ahead, Rich.
Go back to the people for a second.
Yeah. Go back. If you
have all the resources you want, but if you don't have the people, you don't have anything.
Absolutely. Neil deGrasse Tyson, NDT. I love that guy.
Yeah, I love this podcast.
Yeah, he made a very distinct point of saying that the continent of Africa has the extremes of everything on it. It has the extremes of poverty. It has the extremes of riches. It has the extremes of intelligence. It has the extremes of foolishness. It has the extremes of colonialization, and it has the extremes of freedom. Right? So that continent in and of itself has, as it's being robbed of its natural resources, right? It's being done for multiple different reasons. And that's another podcast for another time. And we can go into that. But I do also want to make this point known too, something that we're seeing and talk. This is a bit of a tie-in to global economics as well as the tariffs, the increasing movement. We don't have the minerals that we need to support ourselves. However, Apple has doubled down and committed to $500 billion investment in America, right?
Apple or Taiwan?
Apple.
Because Taiwan did a $500 billion investment.
And that's a newer thing, right? And that's what Deuce was talking about when he was saying the Korean Peninsula they're willing to invest. It's the same thing
In
that
Japan. Yeah.
in Japan. It's the same thing. So the Japan thing, I mentioned that several months ago. Because there's a bank that's willing to what I call sponsor. That's what they're doing. We're sowing ourselves so far into debt that it's ridiculous. These tariffs are continuously pushing our children away from being homeowners. America is being sold parcel at a time. And these tariffs are another movement of ensuring that the non-working class, the people who actually survive off of socialism, which is billionaires and millionaires, are the ones who continue to buy up the resources, just like westernized countries do, unfortunately. Right. So I asked about the intentions behind the tariffs because are we that broke as a country? First off. Second off, if we are that broke, then why have the Republicans injected an additional $2 trillion into the deficit? And why are we okay with the current POTUS previous administration being responsible for a quarter of the deficit in and of that themselves?
It's not that complicated.
No, you don't think so?
Tariffs do not support your free market philosophy. It's a tax. It's a barrier. It limits. It's government intervention.
But what is it limiting? That's the question. Because if the United States Department of Agriculture has been put on pause, and our farmers can't produce crops,
right?
Although last night the opposite was stated.
The reason why they're doing the tariffs is to help the few. See, normally when the government intervenes in the economy, they're trying to help the middle class and the working poor because the rich and the wealthy don't need your help. But see, when you have a person that tells you, I'm a businessman, I'm going to run the government as a business, what he's telling you is, I subscribe to Adam Smith, but I'm going to take this tariff to enhance myself and those in my group. It says here, Smith believed that individuals are guided by an invisible hand that leads them to make decisions. That invisible hand are the controlling people of the earth. Those are the bankers, that invisible hand. That's what that means. And he's telling you
no, that's not what that means. No, flag.
I'm gonna have to go
flag
buy
on the play, sir.
I gotta go buy a red bandana now. Flags on the place. Okay, so
that is not the bankers. It's the market. Everyone that participates in the market.
The invisible hand, self-interest. That the invisible hand that leads them to make decisions. He believes that the unintended consequences of people's actions create social institutions that allow society to function. Slavery. That's what that means. Slavery. The unintended consequences.
You're inferring from it.
You Africans sold some other Africans. Oh, too bad. Now we're going to create a demand. Economics, supply and demand.
But no, I know what you're doing, Rich. No. Stop throwing your body language at me, sir. I know what you're trying to do, right? Because you're going to use the invisible hand, and then you say slavery. Now everyone listening thinks the invisible hand means slavery and it's bad. That's what got my ancestors, that invisible hand, and getting my ancestors off of Africa. The invisible hand describes all participants in the market and how they react to supply and demand. Bakers are a part of the market, just like we as a consumer are part of the market, right? So I see how you're trying to highlight a segment of it to describe it, but I just want to reiterate that the invisible hand is all market participants.
No. Here's where I catch you at. If it was just a barter system, then we are the economy. But it ain't. It's about money. Well, where'd the money come from? The bankers? Well, who are they? Oh, we don't know who they are. That's the invisible hand.
The reason why I can't absolutely directly understand what Richard is saying is it goes back again to the Cornerstone speech of 1861 by Alexander Stevenson. And when he said that capitalism is so intertwined with slavery that you cannot separate the two. So if we're operating under a system purely that promotes capitalism and promotes free market, right? If that is our way of being, then there has to be a slave class in order to continue that way of being. There has to be.
Because that
Well,
system is not based on righteousness, because it's based on the fact that there are certain resources that are scarce. But to anyone who believes in a higher power, to anyone that believes in God, Jehovah, Yahweh, Allah, God gives you everything you need in abundance. So what Adam Smith is saying is a philosophy that comes from someone opposed to God, opposed to righteousness.
Wait,
Oh,
no,
yes.
no,
Oh,
no, no, no,
yes.
no,
how
no,
can
no,
you
no,
make
no.
how
That
can
is
you make
completely
that
not.
direct correlation?
No,
How
it's
can you make
about.
that direct? Go ahead, go ahead, go ahead.
Thank you. No,
Because God,
yes.
when He created this planet, when He created us, there was no limit.
Well, let's remove God
There's no
because God
limit to
doesn't
what?
need our
Because
economics. God
our
doesn't need our
resources, and there are resources that are finite, right? There are resources that do not replenish themselves, right? So a lot of the issues we have today is through gluttony that has nothing to do with the free market, right? That's self-interest. People affect the free market. So you do have to have parameters in place to restrict our greed, man. That's
Wait a
what
minute,
that's
wait a
about.
minute, wait a minute. Hold
Self-interest.
on. Well, hold on. No,
Self,
no. See, you just talk, no, no, no. You just talked
how am I?
yourself into the same trick that you're already
economics.
in.
Yeah,
You
but-
said, you said we
I'm
need to have
listening.
parameters in place. But then you're asking for government intervention. But yet in the same hand, you were just saying you want a free market. Which one is it? Do you want government intervention or do you want a completely free market where the free market dictates what they say here in this thing that James sent me? We said federal policies designed to grow the economy should thus allow market forces
That's what the budget said.
to operate unhindered
Yep.
rather than
Yep.
pick winners and losers. The
Yep.
free market where individuals pursue their own self-interest. Here we go, Mr. Adam Smith. Oh, come on now. I
He was
knew it.
describing.
I knew
Okay,
it months ago you was going to
first
walk
of
into
all,
this.
First of all, he was describing elements of the market, right? Within those elements, self-interest. What if self-interest goes unchecked? Greed happens and it throws the free market on its head, right? That's what's happening in America today, right? Because we have the billionaire class who has unchecked self-interest that is making the rest of America, the 99%,
No,
poor,
no, wait, wait,
right?
wait.
So,
Did you
but
read?
no, no, hold on,
Wait, read.
hold on.
Okay, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Oh, wait, what am I? Wait,
No,
read a
read
comment.
Javi Ruiz. Read what he's saying.
That's Javi Ruiz.
Wait, go.
And so I'll read all of his comments.
All right.
Go ahead,
American capitalism isn't just an economic system. It's a system of exploitation that thrives on the suffering of the many to benefit the few. The rich don't want people to succeed. They need a constant, endless supply of cheap, disposable labor to keep the profits rolling in. That's why policies like universal health care, a living wage, or meaningful protections are dismissed as radical or un American. Those changes wouldn't shift power back to the people, and then the elites can't allow it. Now, as you were, those
one
changes would
exception
shift
to
power
being
back to the people,
pro-labor.
and
Hold on.
the elites can't allow it.
Wait a minute. One exception to what he said, because what he wrote is brilliant. One exception, Javi Ruiz, not a living wage.
Javi Ruiz.
Javi Ruiz, not a living wage, because a living wage is for poor people. As pro-labor, we want a substantial wage, not a living wage.
Okay,
Fair
I've never
enough.
heard this. I've never heard it
I
defined
never
like
heard the
that.
difference either. Yeah.
Yeah, well, because you're
Yeah.
talking to a union president.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely.
I'm just
I like
saying.
it. Say it again. You got to speak that. We got a union president here. I like that. I like that.
I'm just saying, when a person tells you they need a living wage, that means you live in day to day. You're in a short-term environment. You got a short-term mindset. And so you'll steal from anybody around you in your environment because you're living day to day. And so you'll take anything. You'll sell drugs. You'll do anything to make it day to day because you can't save enough money. You can't think long-term because you're in a current war zone. It'll keep it. Systematic racism will keep you in that war zone. And that systematic racism is AKA, like Mr. Ruiz was saying, free market. So this country
we
is
not.
based
Okay, hold
off
on.
of
Let me.
exploiting others to benefit
That's
the few.
capitalism. That's capitalism. All right. So
It's not
hold on. Wait.
righteous.
Hold on. Hear me out. Let me frame it. Let me frame where my camera at? Let me frame myself. Bam. All right. Capitalism is what's allowing these mega companies like Ma Bell back in the day, Microsoft, Google today, right? Elon in himself, it should be an antitrust. He's a walking not antitrust. What is it? When
Apartheid baby. He's a trust baby. Trust hedge
he
fund.
is that, But when a company gets too big, and
Monopoly. Monopoly.
he's the walking monopoly in himself, right? So with capitalism, free market is where the supply and demand should regulate the market, right? But what happens in capitalism are that companies secure the supply. Secure the supply in order to flex on the
Yeah.
demand, right? So if you
Yeah.
have one source that controls the supply, it messes up the free market initiative where the demand and supply should meet unhindered. For instance, water rights out there in California, right? Or
Right.
Nestle trying to buy up everything. It's messing up the system because now instead of having multiple points to have access to the supply, we have 1 point, right?
Mm.
Just 1 point. So that's what happens. Like look at our internet. How many internet providers do we have? I don't think that many. Cell phone providers. We're down at AT&T, Verizon, Sprint, T-Mobile, they're together, right? That's it. Before, when we were younger, we had multiple. But that's what happens in capitalism because these companies are bagging up the supply, thus controlling the flexing of the demand. What free market, we wouldn't have these giant companies controlling all of the supply.
No, you're dead wrong. And I'm going to tell you why. You're dead wrong, but you're not complete. You got a part of
I can't be dead wrong and not completely wrong, Rich. You got to give me one of them.
You're wrong, but you're not completely wrong. Here's what I'm saying.
Okay, I'll take that.
Here's what I'm saying. And this started back in the 1900s, Carnegie and Vanderbilts and all of that.
Yeah.
They had control of the supply. But even when they couldn't control the supply, they still dictated everything because the other people who got involved in helping control the supply, they became a cartel. And so the government had to get involved. But the big deal
was what I was talking. Yes.
Right. So
parameters.
The corporations became cartels over certain supply issues. But what I'm saying is what Mr. Ruiz was saying. If you didn't have a union in this country, you wouldn't have a middle class. You would not have a middle class because they would have never paid out substantial wages. They would have paid you just enough to work you till you're 80 years old and you drop dead. And therefore, we don't need Social Security because we're going to work you until you drop.
Which Elon Musk recently said is nothing more than a Ponzi scheme on Joe Rogan.
Social Security?
Yeah.
Wait, he was recently on Rogan?
I think it was a day
he's
yesterday.
Out of his mind.
Yeah, he just said. So let me read.
I got to listen to that.
Let me read the statement. Let me read the statement, and then I'll follow it up with an example because I actually do agree with this statement. It says America isn't pretending to be a country anymore.
Yeah.
It's a corporation with borders. Its primary goal isn't to serve its citizens. It's to generate wealth for the already wealthy. Hence, the gold passports. A pathway to citizenship for $5 million. A pathway to citizenship for five. That's hard to say. Damn. A pathway to citizenship for $5 million. That's what's being sold. That's what was being sold at the State of the Union address yesterday.
Wait a minute, Mr. Ruiz. Everything you said is accurate except for one thing. He says it's a corporation with borders. Corporations don't recognize fucking borders. Okay? Corporations don't recognize borders. They're transnational.
Well, and that's why we're going after Greenland.
Wait a minute.
Right?
A corporation is an assault on your American sovereignty because they're transnational. And that's why they say global. So if you can get corporations to control everything, you don't even need borders anymore.
But and that's
huh?
Go ahead. Well, I was about to say, but that's the danger with the rhetoric that's happening about Greenland, about the Panama Canal, even when it comes to the Gulf of Mexico / America and Canada. Yeah.
What I'm saying is he's writing brilliantly, but if I can catch something in all that brilliant writing, I'll try to catch it as fast as possible. And when he says a corporation with borders, corporations don't recognize borders. Corporations recognize only one thing.
The bottom
their
line.
Goal, maximize shareholder wealth. That's their only border. They don't recognize anything else.
No. I see exactly what you're saying. Wow, this is.
It's not,
I'm glad
but
I'm
they
at the
don't
bottom of
have
the screen
borders.
because I disagree with both of you. Because I heard you, Glass, spit in. I agree with them. All right, yeah, I'm glad I'm at the bottom. Um, Pause. But let me just say that this is what
You
I
got
think.
second. You got to let some silence get into that after that pause because you got to pause hard on that one. I mean, I'm at the bottom. You got to pause hard on
I just realized I said it twice.
that.
All right, Rich, I see what you're saying, right? You're describing a corporation to a T. However, I think you're missing the aspect that a corporation has, if you want to describe a border, it's the market that they operate in. And they want to make sure that they secure that market. Who was the guy? Just watch it. Standard Oil. Who owned Standard Oil? The richest guy back in the day.
Was it Vanderbilt or was it
Nah,
Carnegie?
nope, the other guy. Rockefeller.
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 There you go.
So his lane, his border, if you will, was oil, right? So anybody that was in that oil business, he took them out, man. He
Yeah.
took them out like Rambo. So a corporation's borders, while they might not be concrete, they want an iron lane. They want to solidify their marketplace. So when he says America's operating like a corporation with borders, we're solidifying our hard borders
Uh-huh.
too, but also we're trying to expand those, like James is saying, right? By claiming Greenland, claiming Canada, claiming the Gulf of America, Gulf of Mexico, because the more that is repeated to us, and once it happens, it becomes palatable to us. We won't put up such a fight. So I see what he was trying to say with that, because we America's protecting the borders with ICE, with the deportations, with the military on the border.
And let
Well,
me throw this out there also real quick, since we're talking about corporations. And I have to say this. It might sound like it's left field, but it's absolutely relevant because remember, our Supreme Court ruled that corporations are individuals too, and
Ooh.
as an individual, you have the right to travel outside of your borders. All you have
Mhm.
to do is have the proper documentation, and that's it.
and you know what? The Supreme Court was wrong on that ruling because by the definition in the business book, a corporation is is a legal entity that has a perpetual life. No human being has a perpetual life.
I don't disagree, except for the sister that's everlasting, the eternal sister that the medical industry took, and is continuously using her
Okay.
genes to do. Okay, that was out of left field. But go ahead, go ahead.
So
I know you.
okay. Well, so the bottom line is Trump is going to use these tariffs to enrich himself and to enrich uh, the lives of those in his orbit, including Elon Musk, uh, Peter Thiel, Bezos, and anyone else. Now, and because he'll never show you his tax returns, he'll never show you his financial statements to prove that he did not benefit directly or indirectly, or his immediate family did not benefit directly or indirectly from the time he was president in his first or second term. Because when he told the Congress, I'm not turning over any damn documents, and I'm not giving up my businesses when I'm the president, and I'm not gonna put it in no trust. I'm gonna keep running it, and that's what he did. That was a signal that I'm gonna do what I want to do while I'm the president, and you ain't gonna stop me.
Now, with that being said, I just want to make sure that we point out that the Supreme Court upheld a ruling by the lower courts that is forcing, well, quote unquote, that is saying that the administration has to release funds for USAID. I just
And
wanted to throw that out there.
no, that's
Yeah.
fine. But like I said, with Chief Justice Roberts, and I think the other, and then Amy Coney Barrett,
Mm-hmm.
you're kind of tricky. So what they'll do is this: if they got a hand, who appointed Chief Justice Roberts? Was it Trump or was it Obama? I think it was Obama. So Coney Barrett and
It
Roberts are
wasn't because he didn't get to put anybody in the courts.
No.
okay. So they're Republicans, they're conservatives. So if they had to hand President Trump a loss on this, for any loss that they give President Trump, I guarantee you double it in the victories he'll get with the Supreme Court. Just double the number.
I don't disagree with that. But what I do think they're trying to show is two things. I think they're trying to show good faith that somebody's going to uphold some type of ruling. It's a movement of massaging to get to gain trust. I don't think it's genuine.
Token. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. It's another movement of tokenization. That's all it comes out to being. That's the honest truth.
Because you know what? Last night, here's the thing. People say, oh, I'm not going to watch it. You should really watch when he comes in, he's shaking people's hands. And sometimes they'll have the mic up close, and you may catch a word here or there when he says something to somebody, but then they'll pull that mic back. And so when he shook the Chief Justice's hands, because remember, only a couple of them went. You think Thomas would have been there. He didn't go. Alito, I don't think Alito went. So not all the justices were there. Katani Brown Jackson wasn't there. Sotomayor wasn't there. So when he got done,
Justice Sotomayor was there, wasn't she?
No, that was Kagan, I think. But not Eleanor Kagan?
No, I'm pretty sure that was that was Justice Sotomayor.
Okay. So when he got done, he came back and he shook their hands again. And if you watch the body language of when he shakes certain justices' hands, it's almost like they look at him like, okay, I couldn't do this one, but don't worry, I got you.
Yeah. Now the music's playing in the background because I think that's a perfect segue talking about shaking hands, right? Getting to this last topic. And this last topic is moving us into Ukraine. And I'm not going to spend much time talking about the actual interaction that we saw displayed in the Oval Office. Because again, the opinions expressed by the authors, the disclaimer, right? So I'm not going to get into too far into that. But what I do want to do, however, is read what people refer to as the Budapest Memorandum. Mm-hmm. And as a little background for the Budapest Memorandum, what it is the document that was, what did I just do? My goodness. It's the document that was signed, that was drafted and signed by, let me make it bigger on the screen so everyone can see it. There we go. Fill up the page. This is the document that was signed in agreement with Ukraine, the Russian Federation, United Kingdom of Great Britain, and Northern Ireland, and the United States, right? That's what this is. And it outlines the actual protections that are obligatory to Ukraine by said actual actors that are involved with this memorandum. And so I'll before I go into it, do you all have anything to say to it right now or no? You want me to just jump in? I can just jump in.
Yeah, well, I have a prepared statement.
Okay. All right. You want to read a statement? You got a prepared statement. Hey,
okay, Jerome Powell. Prepared statements before he goes to the Senate.
See, there he goes. I swear. There's an invisible person in this room, and they're talking to news. I swear they are. So here we go. I put this up on March 2nd, and I believe March 3rd or 4th on Facebook.
Before you read that, let me explain the why as to why I wanted to read this. And the why is because as we are engaged in multiple different fronts, either be it either directly or a point of influence, we have to honor our obligations to allies. And removing ourselves from allyship says a lot about the direction of where the nation and the country and leadership is going. And it becomes a bit of a hard line for Americans in general. And I just want to answer the question why, because a lot of Americans are wondering why we are so involved with Ukraine. So, but go ahead, Rich. Go ahead.
And I see what you're saying. Okay. Because I found it on the internet. That's incredible. That's an incredible catch. All right. So I served the United States military, July 1st, 1987 to November 28th, 1996, and I spent some time in the reserves. I strongly and without any hypocrisy stand for the following: a country to defend itself from invasion, a country to fight for and maintain its independence from invaders. We are Americans. A person to exercise his or her, not they, them, or whatever, two sexes, him or her, freedom of speech in all matters. I stand by my allies, whether they're Israeli, South African, England, Saudi Arabia, or Ukraine. I don't demonize Germany for the Holocaust, or demonize the Middle East for terrorism, or the Black Lives Matter 2 movement for destructive, self-serving actions of a few so-called activists. I don't require a person to be thankful for my exercising my religious beliefs by helping this person in need in his fight to save his or her country. True Christians are those with sincere religious convictions have their thankful reward with eternal life. I respect the opinion of others, and I don't scream, bully, or berate someone for disagreeing or asking me questions for clarifications regarding a multitude of issues, not limited to, but including, to protect one's country's sovereign right to exist. I'm Richard Lewis Brown. Inspire the impossible. 7437. I am not a hypocrite. Thank you.
Absolutely. What you got, Deuce? What you got?
I didn't have a prepared statement, but while
Why
Richard
not?
was going through his soliloquy, I didn't know we were doing soliloquies tonight, right?
Hey,
So
you did.
that was beautiful. I liked it. I did feel the extra seasoning on Black Lives Matter, and there was no extra seasoning on some other. I want to say other on atrocities, and not say other, because that's see almost I ain't gonna fall in that trap. But I do want to say two things. Julius Caesar, the Rubicon. People say don't cross the Rubicon because Julius Caesar took his army, crossed the Rubicon, which at that time the Roman Senate said, do not cross that Rubicon because we will view that as an act of treason. He crossed the Rubicon, sacked the Senate because he felt as though Rome was being led in the wrong direction. I will finish that off by saying, I will defend America from threats foreign and domestic. Take that how you will. All right.
Picking up what you're putting down. With that being said, I will begin to read Ukraine, Russian Federation, United Kingdom of Great Britain, and Northern Ireland, and United States of America. I didn't prepare anything. I don't even have anything I want to say. I just want to read this.
Teleprompter broke? Oh, you're sharing it with us now. Okay. It doesn't have all the fancy wisdom on it. Now you have a PDF. Okay.
See, now you finna make me come with something. But no, let me read this first. Memorandum on security assurances in connection with Ukraine's accession to the Treaty on the Non-Proliferation of Nuclear Weapons, Budapest, 5 December 1994. Entry into force, 5 December 1994, by signature. Authentic text, English, Russian, and Ukraine. And if you go through all the documents, it absolutely shows the different languages that it's translated into so that everyone understands what's in this actual memorandum. All right. It starts out, it begins with French. I would read that for y'all, but I don't, I'm in a relationship. So, anyway, so here we go. Yeah, because when I start speaking French, it's sexy to people. Anyway, Ukraine, the Russian Federation, the United Kingdom of Great Britain and Northern Ireland, and the United States of America, welcoming the accession of Ukraine to the Treaty on the Non-Proliferation of Nuclear Weapons as a non-nuclear weapon state. So, historical background. After the fall of the USSR, Ukraine had a plethora. They had a cache of nuclear weapons. They had an armament that they gave up. But in giving those up, they had to have several assurances, and this is the result of those assurances. Taking into account the commitment of Ukraine to eliminate all nuclear weapons from its territory within a specified period of time, noting the changes in the worldwide security situation, including the end of the Cold War, which have brought about conditions for deep reductions in nuclear forces, confirm the following.
I want to say before you go into that, just to set the stage further, this Clinton was in office when this was made, when this was signed. Does I say when it was created? Don't know, but he was in office when it was signed.
Yep. Thank you for that. That's perfect. The Russian Federation, the United Kingdom of Great Britain and Northern Ireland, and the United States of America reaffirm their commitment to Ukraine in accordance with the principles of the CSCE Final Act to respect the independence and sovereignty and the existing borders of Ukraine. The Russian Federation, the United Kingdom of Great Britain and Northern Ireland, and the United States of America reaffirm their obligation to refrain from the threat of use of forces against the territory, integrity, or political independence of Ukraine, and that none of their weapons will be used against Ukraine except in self defense or otherwise in accordance with the Charter of the United Nations. The Russian Federation, the United Kingdom of Great Britain and Northern Ireland, and the United States of America reaffirm their commitment to Ukraine in accordance with the principles of the CSCE Final Act to refrain from economic coercion designed to subordinate to their own interest the exercise by Ukraine of the rights inherent in its sovereignty and thus to secure advantages of any kind. The Russian Federation, the United Kingdom of Great Britain and Northern Ireland, and the United States of America reaffirm their commitment to seek immediate United Nations Security Council action to provide assistance to Ukraine as a non-nuclear weapon state party to the Treaty on the Non-Proliferation of Nuclear Weapons if Ukraine should become a victim of an act of aggression or an object of a threat of aggression in which nuclear weapons are used. The Russian Federation, the United Kingdom of Great Britain and Northern Ireland, and the United States of America reaffirm in the case of Ukraine their commitment not to use nuclear weapons against any non-nuclear weapon state party to the Treaty on the Non-Proliferation of Nuclear Weapons, except in the case of an attack on themselves, their territories, or dependent territories, their armed forces or their allies by such a state in association or allegiance with a nuclear weapon state. Ukraine, the Russian Federation, the United Kingdom of Great Britain and Northern Ireland, and the United States of America will consult in the event a situation arises which raises a question concerning these commitments. This memorandum will become applicable upon signature, signed in 4 copies having equal validity in the Ukrainian, English, and Russian languages. And then we get into those signatures. That's what happens for the rest of this memorandum. It's translated to various languages and it shows the signatures, the commitments of each and every sovereign state that committed to an obligation to ensure the safety of another sovereign nation, in this case being Ukraine, against unprovoked, and I'll say it again, unprovoked aggression against any other actor. And they did this because they gave up their nuclear armament. And what do we see happening today? The very first paragraph of this document being obliterated by one of the parties who has a signature from one of their leaders on it. So America, the United Nations, as you were, United Kingdom, Great Britain, right? Northern Ireland have an obligation as far as this memorandum is concerned and written and signed with no expiration date, mind you. There is no expiration date on this, to honor the sovereignty of Ukraine.
I also want to add some more context to the scene back then, right? So we got to remember that at that point in time, that was the conclusion, around the conclusion of the Cold War era that was still kind
Yeah.
of fading off with us, right? So us versus the USSR, Russia, right? So there was a lot of fear with nuclear weapons. And also at that time, which the document kind of alludes to, the Ukraine had the 3rd largest arsenal of nuclear weapons in the world, only behind us and Russia, right? Estimated between around 1900 to 25, right? Nuclear warheads in the Ukraine, the third largest. Keep in mind, we don't want to invade countries that have a handful of nukes, right? Because one could do extensive damage. And also at that time, America and Russia were motivated to make sure that they were the only players in that game
Yeah.
because they didn't want to sit, they want to be bystanders to two other countries holding the world by its, I don't want to say what I want to
Shirtless.
say. Yeah,
Yep.
by its junk,
Yep.
like we did with the rest of the world.
Right.
So I just want to set that stage for that.
No,
So,
Ukraine is not in NATO.
No,
but they still have this agreement though. So
They do.
now all these people on
well,
Facebook that was talking
we
all this stuff,
didn't act on it.
talking about Zelensky was crazy and he wasn't respectful and all this, they ain't read none of this. See,
He ain't even wear a suit. Come on, man. What are we listening to?
but you know what? I'm copying this. Like I copied the English part of it.
Yeah.
This off this one thing. So and then I'm gonna email it to myself, and then I'm gonna have it on my phone. And when I go into these people's chests again on Facebook, I'm gonna wear their asses out. Because you know
But
what?
you're right. So here's a question, because Rich, you said, I don't know, Glass, one of you guys said this, they had this agreement. I think this agreement is null and void at this point.
Why?
We were supposed to put the security, the security supposed to give to Ukraine was to help protect the borders at that time, which I still think are the borders that they had before the war. Russia encroached on those said borders. We were supposed to have their back. We didn't.
Yeah, I don't disagree with that. And one of the reasons why the previous go ahead.
Wait. So hold on. So you're saying that this agreement is no longer in effect?
No, I'm not speaking from any reference. This is my opinion.
Oh, okay.
Russia invaded Ukraine.
Okay.
We gave money. We gave aid. We've since ceased it. Ceasing that, we're not upholding our end of this agreement. Thus, I would think kind of terminates the agreement.
I don't think it terminates the agreement. Because the treaty is still in place, right? The memorandum is still in place. We have to honor it. The previous administration understood the ins and outs of this memorandum, which is why we committed funds and armaments in the way we did,
Right.
even right to support and uphold our word. So it's not that it's broken. I think what President Zelensky is doing is simply saying, "Hey, we've got this agreement. Why is nobody acting in accordance with it?" Because this is my opinion, J Glass, the movement, me and mine alone, nobody else's, and I represent no other organizations when I say this. I think that there is a chance that not all of those nukes were given over. I think that not all of that stuff was given up. You know, I think that some of those cards were actually held and we just weren't told about it. And if it has to be employed, every measure has been taken to say, listen, we tried to de-escalate this. We fought a war. We tried to say, hey, listen, you guys are supposed to support us. Hey, listen, we're trying to get involved with NATO so that we can continue to push this away. We don't want this. Nobody wants this. Let's stop it. But that is being missed. And so if it's going to be missed, well, listen, we got something that y'all didn't know we had, and we finna use it.
Hold on.
Well, I just seen something. Let me jump in right quick. I'm going back over. Paragraph 4 says that the countries, UK, Northern Ireland, and US, have to reaffirm their commitment to seek immediate UN Security Council action to provide assistance to Ukraine. We voted with North Korea, Belarus, and Russia to say that Russia is not guilty in provoking this war, thus preventing us from having to act on that clause.
Yeah.
So,
go ahead, Rich.
So here's what I want to say. I see something else in here. Number one, this confirms what I said, that Donald Trump owes money. When he was a citizen, he owes money to Russia. This confirms it. Second thing, when Ukraine was seeking, to get this agreement, and they signed off on it, you know what their big mistake was? Giving up their nuclear weapons.
Yeah.
See, America, this is the hypocrisy of the European American. He tells you, I'm your world's the leader. I'm the leader of the free world. And so you get yourself in some trouble. You say, hey, come help me out. Well, I'll think about it. But if I say, well, I'm going to go on and create my own nuclear weapons, then they say, oh, no, we don't want you to do that. As long as you got nuclear weapons, you call your destiny.
Yeah, you're a threat.
Having a nuclear weapon is almost like having your own central bank.
Sure.
So when they agreed to give up their nuclear weapons, that was a mistake.
It's their sovereignty.
But I understood that they said, if we give this up, then we'll have a chance to have the protection of Great Britain, Northern Ireland,
the Russian
America.
Federation, and America. All of those. The United Kingdom, right? Northern Ireland, the Russian Federation, and America.
Here's the funny thing. I see how they got Ireland split. Because the take over Ireland, it was bombing each other left and right. And so you have Northern Ireland. That's the British part of Ireland. But I only recognize, listen to how I say this, and I'm Richard Lewis Brown. I speak on my own accord. I only recognize Dublin.
Oh, wow. So you
wow. Hey,
okay.
But IRA about to come at you.
You know what? No, they're not. They're gonna be calling me saying thank you. Because the IRA is Dublin. That's Ireland. And when the Brits come and control Ireland, they got the northern part, but they didn't get all of Ireland.
Yeah, no, they didn't.
When I say that I'm consistent against somebody coming into your country trying to invade you. So when I say, as a descendant of the enslaved African, that I believe you came into Africa and invaded my continent, invaded my country, and grabbed me and brought me over here, I'm staying consistent. And I'm staying consistent, and I've been Americanized. When we as Americans say we're against aggression, we believe in freedom. And so now I'm staying consistent with the country of Ireland, not Northern Ireland.
Okay.
I'm staying consistent all the way through to the very end on the oath that I took.
Don't deny Northern Ireland and their crumpets and tea. Because they down with the UK king.
Britain tried to go down there to Ireland and tell those good Irish what to do.
And the Northern Ireland said, cheerio. And now they rocking with them, right? So going back to what y'all were talking about. No, Rich, you hit it on the head, man. The mistake, because they didn't have the power in this negotiation, right? They didn't have the leverage at this point in time. They just cut themselves out from the USSR, right? They gave up the nukes. And to this day, if my memory serves me correctly, no nuclear armed country has been invaded by any other country.
You can't.
That's your ultimate fail-safe.
Yeah.
Yes. Listen to this. When you talk about the 3 African countries who are giving holy hell to France, I thought France had nuclear weapons. Maybe I'm wrong.
They do.
Okay.
I do.
So you tell me what African country has a nuclear weapon. They'll never allow it.
South Africa had it at one point in time in the 90s, and for whatever reason, they decided to disband it. It was on my notes to research why.
Wait a minute. Hold on. No, you don't have to guess why they disbanded that. No, you don't. Because once apartheid ended, and folks like you and I, well, hold on. You guys are active duty and you have to support the country and everything the country says and does. I'm free. And once South Africa's leadership became chocolate, get those nuclear weapons out of here. Because we can't. They have their own nuclear weapons.
I forgot. I didn't think about the time when apartheid ended. You're right. That is around the time.
I can say that because I'm a free American now.
I didn't even think about that. That is the time that they ended apartheid.
The more you talk, Deuce, the more to keep drilling you. Because
hold on. Now don't be thinking you cheating. Hold on now. I thought you had some good points. I'm agreeing with your points. I'm learning from that, homie. we go, this,
I'm sorry.
one,
That's the
one
Irish in
episode
me.
we're gonna talk about economics.
Hold on.
Yeah.
I'm
We're
sorry.
gonna be
That's
drilling each other.
my
Y'all gotta
European
hash that
blood.
out.
That's my European blood. I'm sorry. I'm
Oh
sorry.
no. And so one of the reasons why I also wanted to read that, and if you remember the language that I just read, that's in there, is there was a fictitious narrative spun that Ukraine invaded Russia, that Ukraine was the aggressor in the war.
Yeah,
If that narrative would have caught and held, well, then everything like that would go back to what you were saying, Deuce. If Ukraine would have been the aggressor in this war, well, then this memorandum would be null and void. Absolutely no ifs, ands, or
yeah,
buts.
yeah.
That's why the narrative was set up to spin out and say, well, no, Ukraine was the aggressor. When everybody, the world watched Russia invade Ukraine.
This is me being the devil's advocate here. Okay. This
Okay.
is me being the devil's advocate. This is me being the Stephen A of the show right now.
Oh,
All right?
no.
Yeah. Glass that makes you Molly.
No, it
Richard,
won't be it. No, no,
Richard
no.
Shannon.
No, wait a minute. Wait a minute.
I'll be
I'll be
Shannon.
Shannon. Man.
Look,
you
I'm
ain't
the only
gonna
dark cat on here, so I ain't got no
do me-
choice.
you ain't gonna do me like that. You ain't gonna do me like that.
What was I about to say, man? God damn it. Shit. What you just say, man? You
I'm
meant,
the only dark
yes.
cat on here. I
Devil's
gotta
advocate.
be Shannon.
That makes sense, man. Hey, chocolate, baby. All right. Devil's advocate. They're
Okay.
saying that that Ukraine was the aggressor because Ukraine was starting to seek NATO affiliation. They were trying to seek entry into NATO. Now, if they enter NATO, we can place NATO missiles in NATO countries. It's the reverse of the Cuban Missile Crisis.
But how is that being an aggressor?
It's not.
I'm just being devil's advocate.
Sure. And I'll
To
go with that
Putin,
narrative.
if the Ukraine enters NATO, now he has NATO missiles on his doorstep.
Well, then you've redefined aggression. You've redefined
You
an
have.
act.
He did.
Wait, this is where I agree with Deuce from President Putin's mindset. My thing is this: when you lost your country and they did this agreement, you should have put that in the agreement, and you didn't.
You should have.
That's
Let
on
me-
you, President Putin.
Let me pull up some of this good Canadian whiskey real quick while y'all talking about this. Go ahead.
So no, Deuce, I heard the same thing
Yeah.
last year. So that's a great point. But he should have had it in this agreement. So if you're asking to be part of NATO so they can put NATO missiles in your country because you know Russia's coming back because you know your own people. You
Mhm.
know your own people. So you know it's just a matter of time until Russia tries to come and snatch you back. So you gotta ask, and that this agreement that James read does not prevent them from asking to go in NATO unless there's
does
another
not.
agreement. Huh?
I am agreeing with you 100%. It does not say that they cannot request to be a part of NATO. You are 100% correct.
And here's the thing: if there is an agreement like that, Russia would have it out and be parading it around, saying, "You agreed to not seek NATO. You are, so now we got to come back and take you over." If they had that agreement, they'd be telling Trump, "Put this out in the news media," and they're not doing that. So this is how you know that President Trump, in my personal opinion, is Richard Lewis Brown, and this show does not represent my personal opinion. I'm just here giving you my opinion that he's compromised. This man's compromised.
Who was the he?
President Trump, the commander in chief, he's compromised. But I can't prove it. So I'm not saying this as a matter of fact to defame our president, or I'm not doing that. I'm not saying this as a matter of fact. It's in my opinion that I believe there's a strong possibility, but I have no facts because I can't see his tax returns and I don't know his financial statements. So I can't say it as a fact. So when I say that he's compromised, I'm saying that there's a possibility that he's compromised. This is my own personal opinion on March 5th of 2025. I am not defaming our leader.
That's a great statement.
All right.
That's a great statement.
All right.
I want to, okay. I want to say something, right? So we're talking about the mineral deal for the Ukraine, right?
Okay.
I'm gonna take a different angle on that. Right now, the new race, we had the Cold War, we had the space race. The new race is it's just about chips and technology,
Yeah.
AI development, right?
Yeah.
We
Yeah.
need those chips. The mineral deal, so Ukraine has some key minerals that are used to make chips. Going back to what Glass was saying about Africa, some countries in Africa trying to protect their resources and sell them at market value, we got to find a new source. Got to
Yeah.
find a new, cheaper source to secure those minerals. The Ukraine, once again, history repeats itself and is not in a position to protect themselves properly. They're exposed. They need America's. There is no other country on this earth that could single-handedly counter Russian aggression. Not one single country. Coalition,
China
debatable.
could. China could.
Okay,
China.
That's
facts.
debatable. China is debatable though. I think
China has, if I'm correct, oh gosh, you said France. So America, France, I believe Great Britain, for
Yeah.
sure, Russia, China. I thought Pakistan had a nuclear weapon.
yes.
Turkey. There's so okay. Nukes, yes, but I'm not even talking about just nukes, but the
Are you simply
economic,
talking like a ground force war?
all factors, economic and military, those two. So,
Okay.
Rich, you are right, China. But China and Russia are friends right now, so I take them out of my mind. But yes, you're right. Outside of China, America. Since that, we see them as a weak partner, and the administration sees them as somebody they can exploit to make the deal to get those minerals to stay competitive in the chip war because deep seek happened
Yes.
with
So,
cheaper NVIDIA chips.
well, let me hold on. Let me fall back before our Jewish colleagues reprimand us. Uh, Israel also has.
Motherfuckers don't pay nothing for my show. They ain't reprimanding me. I'm a grown. I'm just playing. Go ahead. I'm just playing.
We don't want that drama.
Yeah, I do
No.
actually kind of want that smoke, but
No,
we'll
we don't.
push forward.
Let's ask Kyrie.
So, well, y'all young. So listen, we don't want to leave out that if the internet is telling the truth, if this source is telling the truth, the United States has the most nuclear warheads of any country by 3,708.
Yeah.
Russia has a large nuclear arsenal. China, large. Korea, large. India, forgive me. India has a nuclear, and that's why Pakistan has a nuclear because they're
Yes.
Pakistan
Yeah.
to be part of India.
Yeah.
And then Israel has nuclear weapons, is the only country in the Middle East believed to have one that we know about.
Yeah, I don't believe it.
I want to make sure I say that.
Iran.
Nope.
No, they're
That's
not
not
listed,
on
but
list.
yeah.
It might not be
Nope,
on the
Iran
list.
has nuclear weapons.
Oh,
They're
it's
trying.
hard.
They have a facility, but they don't have it completed, to the best of our knowledge.
To the best of our knowledge. Yeah.
Yeah, that I think that's really important to.
And-
I can see, like, when I talk to people, I can tell who does a lot of arguing, because when you go on Facebook and argue with those comments, and they keep coming. So when you said, James, that Facebook had slowed you down, when I put up that comment I read about I strongly feel for the following, and I was posting it, like every time I saw a post, I would post that comment. After my fifth or sixth comment and me posting this, they stopped me.
Oh,
Someone
yeah.
said freedom of speech, President Trump.
Hello, Zuckerberg stopped you?
Yes.
Look, Facebook has been doing some weird stuff. I have been going back and forth, and I've been having a great time, like trolling people and debating. And then I see my comments gone, so I send a DM like, "Hey, I see you taking my comments down." And the response was like, "Bro, I'm looking over here too. I didn't take it. I didn't delete them. Facebook did it."
Hey man, yeah. Hey, so you telling me that the tech carrot top is out here taking comments down? I
Hey.
thought they got rid of moderators.
Wait a minute. Hold on a second. See, this is the hypocrisy of the Republican Party. See, when you're the majority party and you're in power, you don't want nobody speaking out against you. Okay, so they accuse the Democrats of trying to control the narrative when it came to COVID.
Mm-hmm.
Now that they're in power, they're doing the same thing. Neither one of you have the keys to the afterlife. I've said this religiously time and time and time again.
But they don't want the keys to the
people
afterlife.
thought that I was a Republican, I'll make this quick. When people thought I was a Republican, I said, keep talking to me. Because I'm going to say things that are pro-Democrat. And then I'm going to say things that are pro-Republican. And then I'm going to say things that are, hopefully, every time, pro-righteousness. And it's not righteous for us to say we can have all these nuclear weapons and we're the world's leader because we self-appointed ourselves with our European mindset. But no other country, if they wanted to develop their nuclear weapons, we say, oh, no, you can't do that, Iran. Oh, you can't do that, Saudi Arabia. Oh, you can't do that, whoever in South Africa. But we have it ourselves.
I'm with
And
that.
I still love my country.
Oh, absolutely. Love this country. I love this country so much that I'm gonna leave it. So with that being said, let's move into final thoughts, gents. Let's move into our final thoughts. So I say I'm gonna leave it because I want a different experience. I've had the American experience. I've had it. I've been having it. Over 40 years I've been having the American experience, and I want to, I love my country, but I need to. It's kind of like how I feel about St. Louis. It's such a love-hate relationship. That's what it is. So, Polar, what's going on, man? You came in at the last second. We're about to hit final thoughts. Final thoughts. So, first up in the shoot, final thoughts. Yeah, Rich, you up first. Final thoughts.
Okay, so my final thought is I stand for America. I support the president. He has his good days. He has his bad days. As my freedom of speech, I'm allowed to give constructive criticism. I'm not allowed to defame anyone unless I have the facts. We do have the facts regarding Ukraine, that agreement, that Budapest agreement from 1994. They've been invaded. Why have we gone against them? We're violating our agreement. However, history tells us in this great country, America has violated a lot of agreements, starting with the Native Americans, and we can go forward from there.
Ooh.
All right.
My goodness. Y'all coming in with shots tonight.
Huh?
I said, you and Deuce, y'all coming in with shots tonight. My goodness.
You know what? And I'll say my second point, President Zelensky, sometimes we have good days, sometimes we have off days. You keep fighting for your country. And don't you never give up your country, ever, to no one. And I wish you weren't giving up your mineral rights. But I'll stop there. And finally, my third point. We got 4 years of this. 4 years. And to all my veterans who've lost their jobs working for the federal government.
Ooh-wee.
I'm so sorry that there's a possibility that some of you veterans voted for President Trump.
Ooh-wee.
The respect you get back for putting your life on the line for this country. You have my respect. You have my sympathy and my empathy. Hopefully you'll be rehired back by Veterans Affairs so we can continue to give medical support to disabled veterans. I'm done. Stop right there.
All right. So before we push forward into Deuce's final thoughts, I do want to say that because I did not bring that point up and I needed to. I should have. I sent Deuce an article earlier today. I should have sent it to you, Richard, but I was in a bit of a rush. That the VA has been pushed to fire 80,000 employees.
Yep,
80,000 employees. Of that 80,000 employees, if memory serves me right, at least 25% of that are veterans. At the very least, 25%. That's not taking into account all of the veterans that have already been fired from other various federal agencies. I just want to throw that out there, America. That's not for the administration, right? I'm not putting that on the backs of the administration. I'm putting that on the back of Americans. That's what I'm putting that on the back of, because this was our choice. All right, with that being said, Deuce, you up next. You want to shoot for?
Just want to highlight another choice since we're talking about vets. We witnessed another DEI initiative where out of the chief of staff, only the black man and the woman were relieved.
Oof.
And where you had a 4-star, you brought up a retired 3-star.
Oof.
Um, I want to say the way things are playing out is like playing a game of pickup basketball. We've all been there. If you made the captain, you made the shots to the 3-point line, 1-2, captain, who you going to pick? You pick the one that's going to help your team win. And that's what we're seeing right now. People are getting picked in these cabinet positions, key positions, to help the administration win and to see Project 2025 completely envisioned and enacted, right? It's a game of pickup basketball, folks. That's all it is. The people who are unpicked and left behind are the people who they don't see is going to help envision their view of America. So, like Rich said, we have 4 years of this new vision of America. And if you can go where you want to go. If you're going to stay here and fight, let's figure out how we fit into this new view, and let's figure out how to steer the ship back, man. You cross the Rubicon or not. And there's many different ways to cross the Rubicon. I want to be clear. I'm not talking about, I don't know, doing something crazy like, I don't know, raiding the White House or something like that. I'm not saying doing things like that.
Like what happened on January 6th some years ago, maybe?
You know, not saying that, but there are many different ways to enact our civic duty.
Peaceful protest.
Peaceful protest. There's many ways to do it in order to manifest our vision of what America should be.
All right. That's good. So the first thing that I would like to say, and my final thoughts is, you all have seen the ticker going through, and I'm gonna need y'all to help continue resourcing the show, right? I want to make sure that everybody knows that we are going to have some perks. I'm gonna brainstorm with the team here, have some perks for subscribers to see how we can get some things done for everybody who comes on and views us consistently. I think we push out fair and balanced information.
I got some debt I can give away.
No, you keep that. You keep that. That's free market debt. I don't want it. No, but we're definitely going to make it worth everybody's while to become a subscriber on YouTube and to assist with the show. So what I will say for final thoughts is, we had the mantra at one point as America, land of the free and home of the brave. And that was the good part of American exceptionalism. Land of the free and home of the brave. Regardless of who you were, and regardless of the skin that you wore, that term, that phrase took shape. It had a different meaning. For those of us who are considered the quote unquote minority group, that meant that we were willing, and we're still willing, that despite the movement of not having our country show us the proper respect and love and admiration we deserve, we are willing to still write a blank check for you. We still believe in various principles that should be administered, and we've been willing to fight for them, not just individually, but for everyone. The thing that's often forgotten is the Voting Rights Act, or all of the Civil Rights Act that happened in the 60s, weren't done just for us. Our people had water hoses turned on us. We had dogs biting us. Our children had to be escorted to school by the National Guard. Our cities were literally bombed. We have been the recipients of domestic terrorism from the inception of this country, and we've still found it within ourselves to write a blank check because we believed in the land of the free and the home of the brave. We've continued that. And all I'm saying, America, is you have to get past a specific fear. We're not saying we're going to do the same thing to you that you did to us. We're not saying that. We've never echoed that. We've never even jumped into the stratosphere with that sentiment. What we have said, however, is that everybody, every single American deserves equality, equity, deserves the right and the freedom to pursue happiness and liberty at whatever cost. Listen, we are participants, voluntarily participants in this experiment of democracy, and we are watching the way it's going. And it's hard to see it. We gave warning after warning, people. And unfortunately, a lot of Americans are going to have to experience the very thing that we've tried to protect you from throughout the tenure of this country. This is going to be a rough ride, America. It's going to be a rough ride. Buckle up, because we're already in it. And as it was stated last night, we are just getting started. And with that, those are my final thoughts for the night. So as always, y'all got anything else to add? I saw you writing some stuff, Rich.
You know it's produced. So I've been holding this back on Deuce for a long time regarding the free markets and banks.
Mm-hmm.
Now, we all know that when you go to the bank and you borrow money from the bank, you pay the money back with interest.
Mm-hmm.
And so when I said the free market is not righteous and the banks are not righteous, because the banks give out these loans created off a perception of evilness, and those loans are bearing interest from the devil. You say, well, that sounds crazy. That's interesting. Because I know good Muslims through Sharia law don't do interest-bearing loans.
Yeah, they don't.
Oh my God! Yeah. Oh! Now, I was trying to look up real quick. I was going to look up where it says in the Bible about not being a
slave,
the slave or the borrower.
Yeah,
but I'm pretty sure the Orthodox Jews also do not do interest-bearing loans. I'll find that though.
I don't know about that one.
Oh
no, within their culture, they do not do it.
Yeah. So when the Orthodox Jews and the really strict Muslims who can't stand each other, at least that's what they're selling to us to keep the war between Israel and Palestine going. They both say that the Sabbath starts on Friday evening through Saturday. They're right. They both say that Jesus isn't the Son of God.
Mm-hmm.
I think they're wrong there, but they could be right. And then they both don't believe in interest-bearing loans. And they don't eat pork and they don't shave. So all these similarities, Jews don't do interest loans. Thank you, Polar Knights. I don't know if Polar Knights is a Jew or not. So when you see two brothers who can't get along over a piece of land, but they got these other strong similarities, when it comes to that money and they don't do interest-bearing loans, that's a message of a lifetime. As long as America gets this money from a private bank and you have to pay this private bank this money back with interest, it doesn't matter what your deficit is, you'll never pay it off. Now, Clinton did in the 90s. He did. Do I think it can happen again under President Trump? No, I do not. Absolutely not. Because he asked to have an extension of the debt limit. So in the same hand, he's talking about conservatism and the free market, but then he also wants more debt extension of $4 trillion. $4 trillion. So one minute he tells you he's all about the free market, but the next minute he needs some government assistance. He's a liar.
We gonna have to set up a shootout between you two when it comes to economics. We definitely got to set that up because I want to be privy to that conversation. Matter of fact, we got to figure out how to do that in person and set the mics up.
Listen. I just have a bachelor's degree. I don't have my master's in finance. I'm not a CPA, a master's in accounting. I don't have my doctorates. I don't know everything about the banking system, but I got enough sense. And I've done enough reading that even the people who have more education than me they can't answer my questions. And they can't just write me off and say it's just a conspiracy that Richard, you don't know what you're talking about. That's BS. And you can't get around this, and neither party will present this because they're in the mainstream. In the mainstream news media, whoever controls them, I don't know who controls them. Whoever controls them or has influence on them, they will not allow these types of conversations to come out. Now, Bernie Sanders, Senator Sanders,
we out. We gone.
He tried to bring this up years ago. He talked about the banks. But see, when he talked about it in such a way. But I believe, no, I don't believe, I know. He's a Jewish cat. So he couldn't really be accused of being anti-Semitic.
So what was the underlying? So out of that, interest in that.
Mm-hmm. So if you continue to borrow money from a private bank, and then you pay that bank back with our tax dollars, the bank is going to put an interest rate on that you'll never be able to pay it back. For example, when Germany lost World War I, after they were winning, and then somehow they lost the war, the bankers in Europe agreed to put this high amount of debt on them to repay back.
Mm-hmm.
Hitler said, we ain't paying that shit back. We don't trust you bankers. And I'm going to unite my country and I'm going to run you up out of here. Because I believe that some of you bankers put me in this position to begin with. But they say
the same thing was done to Haiti.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And not just that, but Clinton administration continued it.
Yeah.
Well, if you're an African country, if you have black leadership, you're always going to be owing money to the International Monetary Fund. Because once they put that debt on you, you'll never come from underneath that. You can bring Richard when I tell my mommy about you go oh my God. So, but people don't talk about these things. So we talk about all these problems. And when America says we can't afford to give you Social Security, we got to make cuts. We have to make cuts in Medicaid because of fraud, waste, and abuse. We got to make cuts in Medicare. We got to make all these cuts in the social programs. But when it comes to mineral rights, we'll print that money up and send it to Israel, Iraq, Afghanistan, Ukraine. We'll send it to anybody. We have time for that. But the money is not weighed against anything but the perception. So if the perception is there's a scarcity amount of resources, we're going to print up so much to help you, then you're already behind the ball. But if you truly believe in God, if you truly believe in a higher power, 2008 was a bailing bank out. You shouldn't have bailed them out.
I agree.
So
I agree.
The perception from Adam Smith, a European. No, Europe had a limited amount of resources.
Yep.
Because that was their belief in God, that God didn't give them enough, even though allegedly God told them, you are the chosen people.
Well, that's a whole nother conversation. That part's a whole nother conversation that I can dig into, and I can, oh my God, go. Whew.
I just want to say this, right? So there was an American poet, a great American poet that said,
Jay Glass?
I can't help the...
Oh, no, a different one? Go ahead.
Not a philosopher, poet.
Oh, okay.
But, the other hat, you got that. Can't help the poor if I'm one of them, right?
Woo. Yeah.
Yeah. So while, Rich, I hear what you're saying. I do agree with some of those points. But when I think about world politics, the three superpowers all utilize interests to cripple other countries to secure their place. So interest is a tool, and those three, America and China, I don't know so much about Russia. America and China are using that weapon to cripple other countries and to fatten their coffers. So, it's a tool that could be used for bad.
You forgot Britain. They are the
they're such on the decline, though.
No. No.
Well, hold
the
on.
UK?
Yeah,
On the surface, Deuce, you would be absolutely right.
Yeah.
If you go into deeper issues,
No.
because listen to this. If you say, well, Richard, the New York Stock Exchange, powerful, absolutely. But what's the other most powerful stock exchange outside of New York? I would
London.
it not there you go, London.
Yeah.
And then maybe Chicago, maybe over in Japan or China, one of those markets.
Not Japan, because Japan shit is so volatile. You never know what it's going to do. That's why the yen bounces back and forth so much.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but London's financial market is just right next to America's New York Stock Exchange.
And let's also not forget that London is holding a lot of riches from other, well, I'm going to say it plainly. London, the UK, they have raped Africa, and they will not give their jewels back. They won't give their artifacts back. They won't give their art back. And that's where they get a lot of their actual value. They're holding it on purpose.
Wait.
But that's okay. Yeah, those items are valuable.
Right.
But they're losing the payments that we're getting from the countries that they held under servitude once they broke away from the crown.
Yeah, and I don't disagree with that, but they're still holding a value, a large sum of value. They're keeping it. Go ahead, Rich.
Listen to the hypocrisy of this. Europe, you say that you are the children of God. You paint God and Jesus and the angels as being white. You are the master race, whether you acknowledge it openly or quietly. But then you run to Africa and grab African artifacts, but those Africans are inferior to you. So why do you need their stuff? Again, you're a hypocrite.
Yeah, and they understand that all of that, all of the information that they're taking, the intellectual properties that they're stealing, it predates their existence. Let's be honest about it. But I don't even want to go too far down that rabbit hole because I'm not trying to seem.
Right.
I'll pause it at that. There's a lot of reading that's involved and a lot of references that I can give that show. If anybody wanted to do a quick lesson, a quick read, I would highly recommend and challenge you to read the way that the Moors moved and what they conquered and what they brought to different areas of the areas that they conquered.
Spain,
right? Spain,
mm-hmm.
all of that, France, all of that. Look at what they brought. They brought education. They taught these motherfuckers how to wash up. Let's be honest about this shit.
All the dark ages.
Yeah.
All the dark ages.
So I'll pause myself there because that's a topic that I actually get passionate about.
Well,
I get passionate about that.
Listen, when I talk to European Americans, Caucasians, white Americans, I said one thing Europe does. When they build their edifices, their buildings, they build them for life. They had to because of the weather. They had to work together in certain countries that, they spoke the same language, because if you and I are British and we speak the same language, if we're not careful, Spain or France, they'll come and knock our heads off. So we got to work together. But in Africa and in Asia, it wasn't like that because there was so much land. You didn't have to work with nobody. You could just spread out and do what you wanted to do. But in Europe, the usable land mass
was finite.
Usable land mass, not Russia's land mass.
Yeah.
Usable land mass is limited. So they had to fight and they had to learn how to work together in certain groups. And that's to their benefit. But what they won't acknowledge is all of your intelligence, not all of it, but a substantial amount of your intelligence, your culture, the way you do things, that came from Rome, but Rome got that from the Greeks, but the Greeks got that from the Africans that called themselves Egyptians.
And to your point with the confined space of Europe and the famines that happened, they had to expand to secure their people.
And they had land titles. So, everybody in England had land titles to mark their land off. But when they came to America, the Native Americans didn't have those land titles. They're like, you get a land title? No, it's all the creator.
They began to institute a system of governance that was not real and only benefited them once they got there. But again, that can be another topic for a later time when I think we should have a bit of a historical night. I think we really should. And I'll find some people who are deeply invested in history. And I'll find people who are on the opposing side of that. And let's find some people who don't agree with what we're saying.
James, when you do that night, that's a long night.
Absolutely.
Because
I
you
don't
take
know if y'all noticed this, but our nights get longer. One of the reasons why I'm okay with us starting when we start, and I'd like to push it a little bit earlier if it's possible, because
Actually, yeah.
I don't like having a set time limit on what we're talking about, because we're talking about a lot of stuff, and for us to push it in 1 hour is almost next to impossible, because we're hitting points and we got to jump off of them. But there's so much for us to actually dive into, or maybe we have for subscribers in the future. This could be a hangover where we have the Wednesday night Family Bloodline After Dark, set for
Like
certain
members
times.
only or
Yeah,
Patreon, something like that.
on Patreon, absolutely. But that's something that we can brainstorm at a later time.
Yeah.
Well, and what I try to do, because sometimes I have a lot to say, I'm trying to talk as fast, but still, express myself.
Concisely.
No more than 20 to 25 seconds, and then I try to shut it down.
Sure.
Oh, I like that.
Y'all can do the same thing, and then I'm trying to read them, because I wish we could bring the people in the comments. I wish we could bring them into here, because when you watch people on TV, they try to take your head off in 15 to 20 seconds, and then they fall back, and then the moderator talks. But you got 15 seconds trying to chop somebody's head off. But because of the commercials, you can't really expand on your point. We don't have commercials.
Yeah. And so with that being said, if under my name, you see it says stream.com, that's because we also have an actual channel, right? That's the Family Bloodline channel where I put, and I got to go back and I do some more production in it. But all of our podcasts go on that. And I generally stream it for a week to 2 weeks straight. And then I have to go back and I have to re-up. But I don't have, the only commercial breaks that I have, they start at about 1 or 2 o'clock in the morning. And then it's just our podcasts that are running all day. And that's it. Right. So it's a mix between Wednesdays and Thursdays. So it's on stream. And the goal is to continue that effort, which is why it's important for everyone to begin to come over and help support the podcast. Because again, we it's not just that we're talking a bunch of shit. We actually bring facts and we fact check real time. We bring people up on the panel that want to get in. That's why I'm always posting the link to hop on to expand and to have the conversations that people are generally afraid to talk about. I spoke with a good brother earlier today, Javi Ruiz, and he was saying that he also wanted to have a segment. He wanted to start his own podcast, which like I told him, I'd love to help him do it, set his own thing up. To where it's Spanish speaking portion of it. And I agree with that. And again, it's in a movement of simply presenting the information, which is what we do. Do we have our own personal biases? I think we do, but I think we also do a very good job with checking those personal biases by going and doing fact checking on each other. And I don't see any other podcast out here doing real-time fact checking. Nobody.
Yeah, you guys are good at that.
We are good at that. I think
we're all good at that.
Y'all make me race to do that. Because I'm listening, because I know y'all working full time. So when I'm not doing legal briefs, I'm watching multiple channels. And when we talk about certain things, you're not going to hear that on mainstream. Now, would you hear that in some of the deeper podcasts?
Yeah.
Maybe Joe Rogan, maybe, because he has 14 million people watching him.
Yeah.
I don't know if he's getting that deep. So when you made that comment, James, about Neil deGrasse Tyson, I saw that clip on Facebook because I was surprised that he admitted that. Because what he was basically trying to say is Black people were the building blocks of mankind. See, that's what he didn't want to say. So he talked all around it, but he knew what he wanted to say.
Yeah. I met that guy. I love that dude. I love that dude. Oh yeah, I met him. I got a picture of it. Oh, he's cool as a motherfucker. I'll tell the story one day.
Okay.
I'll tell the story. I met him when we were still in Mountain View, Deuce. I met him because he actually came up to the Reserve Center. He was there for 3 or 4 days, and I met him. Me and Morello spoke with him. I got to ask a question. He and I were actually having a full-on conversation about black holes because I'm a bit of a geek, right? And that's one of the things that I read, right? If you look at under the bottle of Canadian whiskey, I actually have one of his books because I keep them on deck. And this one is, yeah, I love this guy. I love his intelligence. I love the way he works it.
Look, I didn't know if he was sincere or not because when I did the Wikipedia on him and I saw some negative stuff, and then I was looking at his family and everything, I said, well, sometimes when a cat like him is that smart and he goes outside the community and marries someone else, sometimes he ain't with you, and sometimes he still is. They're tricky.
Yeah.
So you can't always stereotype when someone marries outside the culture.
Yeah, and that's another conversation that we should have.
Yeah, yo.
Because I was surprised he told the truth. Because when he said, hey, all this about the aliens, they're trying to say the aliens built the pyramids. No, black folks built them pyramids.
Yeah, and
how they did it?
So he's an atheist, and everything that he does, there's a philosophical movement behind it, and there's also a very scientific approach to everything. And so you'll get the logical aspect of it, and that's where he and I differ, because I have a belief in deity and he doesn't. So, but at the end of the day, listen, y'all could have been anywhere else in the world, but you decided to hang out with us for 2 hours and 6 minutes with 7, 8, 9 seconds. And we greatly appreciate you for it. Support the podcast. You see the Cash App at the bottom. We're trying to do bigger things. We've got it. We have to do bigger things, right? The platform deserve it. The people deserve it, especially in this time of misinformation and disinformation. We are going to give you the unadulterated truth, regardless. We're going to speak on it. We don't have to agree. We won't always agree. And you're more than welcome to come up on the platform and give your opinion and hang out with us for the evening. So with that being said, I thank everybody for coming out. God bless and good night.